off the coast of Gansby, South Africa. Scientists discovered something that could completely rewrite what we knew about the ocean's predators. 5 great white sharks were found washed up on the beach, each one over 2,000 pounds, and killed in the exact same way. Their livers had been surgically removed with precision that would make even a surgeon jealous. Nothing else was touched. Not a single other organ, no meat eaten, just the liver. And when marine biologists analyzed the bite pattern and began investigating, they discovered something even more shocking. Only 2 orcas were responsible for all 5 kills. 2 orcas that they've been tracking for years. Their names, Port and Starboard, named after the directions their dorsal fins lean. And this wasn't an isolated incident. Between 2017 and 2020, Port and Starboard killed at least 8 great white sharks using this exact same technique. The result of this? Great white sharks completely abandoned the entire region of the South African coast, an area that they've inhabited for thousands of years. Today, I'm going to show you exactly how orcas hunt, why they're the most intelligent animal on the planet, and why they might be the most dominant predator to ever exist. Before we talk about how they hunt, we need to understand what makes an orca so intelligent. And it all starts with their brain. An adult orca's brain weighs about 15 pounds. That's nearly 4 times heavier than a human brain, which is around 3 pounds. But size isn't everything when it comes to intelligence. What matters is something called the encephalization quotient, which basically just means brain size relative to body size. We're going to refer to this as EQ. Humans have an EQ of about 7.4 to 7.8. While orcas have an EQ around 2.5 and 3. That puts them right alongside elephants and just behind great apes. But here's what's really fascinating. Orcas have a part of their brain that humans don't even have fully developed. This is called the paralimbic lobe. This is the region associated with processing emotions, social bonds, and complex communication. In orcas, this lobe is so enlarged that it's actually subdivided into 4 distinct sections. Scientists believe this is why orcas have such complex social structures, and why they display behaviors that look a lot like human culture. Different orcapods, essentially family groups, have completely different hunting techniques, different vocalizations that function just like dialects, and even different food preferences that are passed down through generations. This isn't instinct, this is learned behavior. This is culture. In Monterey Bay, California, there's a pod of orcas that specialize in hunting great white sharks. They performed a technique that their mothers taught them, and they'll teach it to their calves. Meanwhile, in the Pacific Northwest, there are orca pods that exclusively eat salmon. They won't touch a seal, they won't touch a shark, just salmon. These pods live in the same waters as the shark hunting orcas, but their entire culture is completely different. Think about that. Same species, same ocean, completely different lifestyles. This isn't just animal intelligence anymore. This is advanced animal culture. So now that we understand orca intelligence a little deeper, let's talk about what Port and Starboard did to those great white sharks. Because their technique is absolutely surgical. They'll start by identifying an alone great white shark. Orcas are highly social and almost always in pods of 5 to 30, while great whites on the other hand are largely solitary. This gives orcas the immediate advantage. But once they've identified a target, they use their superior speed to position themselves. Orcas swim about 34 miles an hour, while great whites max out at about 25. The orcas then circle underneath the shark using echolocation to track the exact position. Then comes the critical moment. In one coordinated motion, the orcas flip the shark completely upside down. And this is where things really get fascinating from a biological standpoint. When a shark is turned upside down, it enters a state called tonic immobility. This is a natural reflex where the shark becomes completely paralyzed. Scientists aren't completely sure why this happens, but the leading theory is that the ampullae of Lorenzini, aka the electroceptor organs that sharks use to detect their prey, when these organs are oriented upside down, it disrupts the shark's sensory system and essentially causes a system shutdown. The shark can't move, it can't swim, and it can't breathe. Great whites need to constantly swim to push water over their gills. It's called ram ventilation. So when a shark is upside down and paralyzed, it's suffocating. But somehow orcas know this. They hold the shark upside down for about 15 minutes, aka long enough to ensure it's dead or at least unable to fight back. Then comes the incredible part. The orcas make a single precision bite to the shark's pectoral area. They're targeting one specific organ, the liver. A great white's liver can weigh up to 500 pounds and makes up about 25% of its total body weight. It's massive and it's filled with oil called squalene, which helps the shark maintain buoyancy. But for orcas, the liver is valuable for a completely different reason. It's easily the most nutrient-dense part of the shark, packed with fats, vitamins, and calories. One shark liver could provide enough energy for an orca to go days without eating. So the orcas extract just the liver, leaving behind the 2,000-pound carcass, then moving on to the next shark. It's efficient, it's calculated, and it's devastating for the shark population. Now, the shark hunting is just one example of this animal's intelligence. Different orca populations around the world have developed completely different hunting strategies. And what's truly remarkable is that these techniques are so complex that they can only be learned through teaching. Let's start in Antarctica. Down there, orcas have perfected something called wave washing. They hunt seals that are resting on ice floes, aka floating chunks of ice. And here's what they do. A group of orcas will swim in a perfect formation directly at the ice floe. Then at the last second, dive beneath it and create a massive wave that washes over the ice. The seal gets knocked into the water while the orcas are waiting. Researchers have watched orcas practice this technique with their calves using pieces of ice that don't even have seals on them. That's literally teaching their young how to hunt. In Argentina, specifically Peninsula Valdez, there's an orca population that does something that's even more insane. They intentionally beach themselves to catch seals on the shore. Think about that. You're walking on a beach when you see an animal that weighs 12,000 pounds launch itself onto land, grabs a seal, and then wriggles its way back into the water. If they miscalculate even a little bit, they could get stuck and die. But they do it anyways because it works. And the only way young orcas learn this technique is by watching their mothers do it and practicing it in shallow water. Scientists have documented mothers literally pushing their calves towards the beach. Now in the Pacific Northwest, resident orcas have developed a technique for hunting salmon. They use echolocation at depths of over 1,000 feet. Then they stun the fish with their tails. One researcher recorded the tail slap so powerful that it instantly killed a 15-pound salmon. The force was estimated to be equivalent to a car crash. But here's the kicker. Transient orcas, aka the ones that eat marine mammals instead of fish, live in the exact same waters, but they hunt completely differently. Transient orcas are silent hunters. They don't use echolocation because when they're hunting seals or sea lions, those animals can hear their clicks. So instead, they rely on passive listening and visual tracking. They've learned to be completely silent. Same species, same ocean, completely different hunting cultures. This level of behavioral flexibility is almost unheard of in the animal kingdom. So at this point, you might be wondering, does anything hunt orcas? Short answer is no. Adult orcas have zero predators. None. They're the only apex predator on Earth with a completely uncontested position at the top of their food chain. Even the great white shark, aka one of the most feared predators in the ocean, flee entire regions when orcas show up. And we're not talking temporary avoidance. After Port and Starboard killed those great white sharks in South Africa, the entire shark population left. For months. Researchers tracked and tagged great whites swimming hundreds of miles away to avoid the area. Some didn't return for over a year. This happened in other locations too. Monterey Bay, California, a similar event occurred. When a pod of orcas killed a single great white shark, every other great white in the area immediately left. They didn't just swim a few miles away, they left the entire region. One tag shark swam all the way to Hawaii, aka over 2,500 miles away, all just to avoid an orca. And this makes sense if you think about it from the shark's perspective. If you're a great white and you encounter an orca, your options are extremely limited. You can't outswim them, you can't outfight them, and your only option left is to leave. So that's what they do. But here's what's really wild. Orcas don't just dominate sharks. They've been documented hunting sperm whales, aka the largest toothed predator on Earth. Sperm whales weigh up to 45 tons while orcas weigh up to 8 tons. But orcas hunt in pods up to 10 to 20 individuals. They specifically target juveniles because the adults are too large and too dangerous. There are documented cases of orcas separating a young sperm whale from its mother and exhausting it over the course of hours until it drowns. It's brutal, it's calculated, and it shows just how dominant they are. They'll take on anything in the ocean if they can win. There are documented cases of whales, such as the pilot whale, intentionally interrupting orcas because they are so big and so dangerous. But they can't kill them, they can only interrupt their feeding. So let's bring this all together. Orcas are the ocean's most intelligent apex predator because they combine 3 things that no other animal has. They have one of the largest and most complex brains in the animal kingdom, with their specialized regions for social bonding and communication that rivals primates. Second, they have learned behaviors that are passed down through generations, which means they have culture. Different pods hunt differently, communicate differently, and even eat different things. And third, they have 0 natural predators. They sit alone at the very top of the food chain with 0 competition. They hunt great whites for sport, they teach their young complex techniques like wave washing and intentional beaching, they can take down prey 10 times their size through coordinated pack hunting, and they've shaped entire ocean ecosystems just by existing. When orcas show up, everything else leaves. That's not just an apex predator. That's an apex predator with a brain, a strategy, and culture. And that's what makes them the most dominant predator the ocean has ever seen. Now I know this video was longer than my usual shorts, but I wanted to give you the full picture of why orcas are so incredible. If you want more deep dives like this on other apex predators, let me know in the comments. And if you made it this far, I really appreciate you and thank you for watching. I'll see you guys in the next one. Don't forget to subscribe and leave a like if you enjoyed.